You've seen him, always performing, always pushing, always trying to be seen. And yet, something about him fades the moment he leaves. But then, there's the other type. The man who says little, moves with calm, and doesn't need to win the room, because somehow it already turns toward him. You feel it, so does everyone else. His silence doesn't create distance, it creates gravity. This is the quiet force we're talking about today, not arrogance, not indifference, but the silent, magnetic presence of the Sigma male, the man who lives outside the hierarchy, whose power lies not in dominance or submission, but in deep self-possession. And maybe you felt that pull in yourself too. That sense that you don't quite fit the mold, that you're not meant to compete with noise, but to rise through stillness. Maybe you've tried being louder, stronger, more visible, but deep down, you knew your strength was never in how much space you took up. It was in how solid you stood in your own. If that resonates with you, then you're not alone, because in a world screaming for attention, the man who chooses silence becomes unforgettable. While others are performing, he is observing. While others chase approval, he refines himself. And while the crowd looks outward for identity, the Sigma turns inward and finds something stronger. But let's be clear, this isn't about playing mysterious. It's not a trick, it's not a mask. The Sigma male doesn't pretend to be quiet. He is quiet because his inner world is louder than the world around him. And that kind of energy, it draws people in, especially women. See, attraction isn't just about looks or words. It's about presence. And when a man is deeply present with himself, he doesn't need to chase anyone. He becomes a sanctuary, a question, a story you want to keep reading. Psychologists have long studied this dynamic. One study from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that when someone tries too hard to impress, it often leads to the opposite effect. What they call familiarity breeds contempt. The more you perform, the less you're valued. But the man who doesn't try to be known, he becomes a mystery worth unraveling. That's the Zeigarnik effect at work. Our minds are wired to be drawn to what's incomplete, what's hidden, what leaves something unsaid. A Sigma male lives that reality, not because he's withholding, but because he's whole. And in that wholeness, he doesn't need to explain himself to anyone. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Withdraw into yourself." The rational mind is a retreat in itself. That's where the Sigma lives, not isolated but centered, not aloof but sovereign. His calm is not an absence of passion, it's proof that he's mastered it. His silence is not empty, it's full of depth, of presence, of power. So why does this matter to you? Because maybe you're tired of feeling like you need to prove your worth. Maybe you're ready to stop performing and start becoming. Maybe, just maybe, you're called to a different path, a quieter one, a stronger one where your value doesn't come from being seen, but from being known by yourself first. In today's video, we're going to explore the 7 defining traits that make Sigma males so deeply magnetic, not just to women, but to the world. These aren't tactics, these are truths. They're not things to pretend, they're things to embody. You'll learn how disciplined freedom creates a life of focused flow, why purpose will always be more powerful than pleasing, how true authenticity isn't about being accepted, it's about being aligned, and how emotional intelligence, silent confidence, and mysterious independence aren't just attractive, they're transformative. If this message stirs something in you, if a part of you is waking up while reading this, then I invite you to walk this path with us. Hit that like button if you feel this energy. Subscribe if you want to keep sharpening the quiet strength inside you. And drop a comment below, because your voice, your presence, might be the quiet fire that someone else needs. Now, let's begin with the first trait of the Sigma male, the foundation of everything else. Number 1, disciplined freedom. True. Freedom is not the absence of structure, it is the ability to choose structure. To the Sigma male, liberty doesn't mean chaos or defiance for its own sake. His freedom is born from a far deeper place, self-discipline. He is not a leaf in the wind, nor a flame that flickers with every breeze. He is a flame that learns to burn steadily, regardless of the storm. That is where his strength lies. In a society that equates freedom with indulgence and immediate gratification, the Sigma offers a radical alternative. He embraces choice, not the kind that is whimsical, but the kind that is guided by values, by purpose, and by personal sovereignty. No man is free, Epictetus once wrote, who is not master of himself. This is not just philosophy, it is observable truth. The American Psychological Association has published studies confirming that self-control correlates highly with long-term success, happiness, and even physical health. While others chase pleasure in the name of freedom, the Sigma man delays it, not as denial, but as devotion. Devotion to his future self, to his vision, and to something larger than momentary comfort. That's why he's often misunderstood. He'll skip the party not because he's antisocial, but because he's invested. He'll say no, not because he's uptight, but because he's aligned. Like the craftsman shaping marble, he sculpts his life with precision. Every choice is a chisel strike, every habit a hammer blow. He is not building for applause. He is building for meaning. Imagine a man who wakes before the sun, not to show off, but to center himself. He journals, reflects, and reviews his tasks. He knows his mind is his workshop, and discipline is the fire that keeps it lit. When tempted by distraction, he recalls what matters. He walks past temptation, not because he doesn't feel it, but because he's trained not to bow to it. That's what sets him apart. His boundaries are not bars, they are a framework within which he thrives. The Sigma's freedom is disciplined because it understands time. He knows that every yes is a no to something else, so he chooses with care. He does not fill his calendar to feel important. He leaves space for solitude, thought, and focused work. This clarity of intention brings peace, a quiet, internal strength that others sense, even if they cannot name it. Women, in particular, notice this calm. It's not cockiness or aloofness, it's presence. A man who has nothing to prove and everything to preserve is rare, and rarity commands attention. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, just that you do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter. And this is the core of the Sigma spirit. He does not chase validation or fear rejection. He simply does what must be done. That is real freedom, not reacting but choosing, not performing but becoming. One evening, a friend named Alex was invited to an extravagant gathering in the city. Champagne flowed and beautiful distractions abounded. But Alex, a writer, declined. Not because he lacked friends or opportunity, but because he was in the flow of his manuscript, a book that had lived inside him for years. That night, while others laughed under chandeliers, he lit a single candle and wrote until his soul emptied itself onto the page. Months later, When that book was published and changed lives, no one saw the quiet discipline behind it. But that was where it was born, in silence, in structure, in freedom. The Sigma man is like this. His discipline is not a punishment. It is his greatest liberty. He has tasted the chaos of untrained desires and chosen instead the steady rhythm of a life with purpose. His freedom is not about saying yes to everything. It's about having the courage to say no. That courage, rooted in Stoic strength, whispers instead of shouts. It does not seek attention, and yet it draws the deepest respect. He doesn't force balance, he becomes balance. He doesn't fear solitude, he finds clarity within it. And in a world obsessed with instant everything, his patience becomes power, his restraint becomes radiance. The Sigma man is not free because he has no rules. He is free because he wrote his own, and he follows them, not blindly, but faithfully. And in that fidelity, he finds not only direction, but dignity. This is disciplined freedom, the kind that liberates from within, the kind that doesn't need permission to thrive, the kind that Stoic men and strong women recognize as the essence of real power. So if you ever find a man who walks quietly but with resolve, who turns down noise in favor of clarity, who guards his schedule like it guards his soul, know this: you've just encountered a Sigma. Not loud, not reckless, not boastful, but free. Because in the words of Epictetus, freedom is not achieved by satisfying desire, but by eliminating it. And the Sigma has learned that lesson well. Number 2, purpose transcends pleasing. There is something quietly noble about a man who does not live for applause. He is not stirred by every shift in opinion, nor does he twist himself to fit into someone else's version of worthy. Instead, he walks a straighter, lonelier path, one governed not by approval, but by purpose. And it is precisely this clarity of direction that makes him profoundly attractive. In a world obsessed with validation, the Sigma man dares to be focused. While others drift with the tides of trend and affirmation, he chooses to be anchored. He wakes up not wondering, what should I do to please, but rather, what must I do to progress? His life is not an improvisation, it's a disciplined pursuit of something deeper. Seneca wrote, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable." And in those few words lies the soul of the Sigma. He doesn't chase after, smiles, or soften his truth for comfort. He lives in devotion to his own vision. And that devotion, that unwavering consistency, radiates a magnetic power that no charm or cleverness can replicate. Psychological research from the field of evolutionary psychology affirms this ancient wisdom. Studies show that women are naturally drawn to men who exhibit clear goals, emotional self-control, and internal stability. These are not simply personality perks. They are signals of long-term potential, of leadership, and of reliability. It's not the loudest voice in the room that captures the heart, but the one whose actions speak of direction. A man of purpose doesn't explain himself constantly. He doesn't need to. His actions are loud enough. There's a particular calm that comes with knowing who you are and what you're working toward. And that calm, call it emotional gravity, pulls people in, especially women who are tired of chaos and confusion, dressed up as charisma. Let me paint a scene. There's a man, let's call him Daniel. Daniel is building a startup. He's not flashy. You won't find him at every party or on every social feed. He spends his evenings sketching business models, not sipping cocktails. When he meets someone, New, he doesn't adjust his identity like a suit jacket. He simply continues to be who he is, a man with a mission. And strangely enough, or perhaps not so strangely, people are drawn to him. Women are curious. Not because he tries to be interesting, but because he is interested in his work, his growth, his path. Daniel isn't trying to win admiration. He's cultivating mastery. And mastery, in all its forms, is irresistibly attractive, because it represents the very thing so many seek, a sense of meaning. The woman who meets him doesn't feel like she has to guide him or fix him. She feels safe in his steadiness, not safety in the mundane sense, but the kind that inspires trust. Here is a man who knows where he's going. I don't have to hold him together. I can walk beside him. The Stoics taught us to focus on what is within our control, and for the Sigma, this principle is alive in every choice. He cannot control whether people like him, but he can control whether he shows up with discipline, whether he builds the life that matches his inner vision. That quiet, daily consistency becomes his loudest statement. And this is what separates the Sigma from the crowd. Most people are in a performance. They adjust their tone, posture, even values to appeal to others. But the Sigma understands that the only enduring appeal is authenticity combined with direction. He is not trying to convince anyone of his worth. He's too busy becoming someone of worth. Purpose has a fragrance. You can smell it in the man who is building something, refining something. A man who is not addicted to praise, but is devoted to progress. That kind of energy can't be faked. It's calm, but it's alive. It doesn't scream, but it stays with you. So to the men who feel misunderstood, who feel out of place in a world that celebrates noise over depth, hear this: you are not behind. You are not too quiet. You are not too serious. You are simply focused. And that focus is not your weakness. It is your fire. Stay aligned with your aim. Let others bend for applause if they must. You stand for something. Build your life not for admiration, but for meaning. And know that the right people, the right woman, will recognize that truth, not in your words, but in your unwavering walk. For as Marcus Aurelius reminds us, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one, and nothing is more magnetic than a man who walks that wisdom every day. Number 3, authenticity. There's a sacred power in choosing to live without a mask. In a world addicted to performance and perception, authenticity becomes an act of quiet rebellion. The Sigma male doesn't pretend to be what others want. He simply is. And that truth, lived without apology, shines louder than any crafted persona. In psychology, this is called self-congruence, the alignment between one's inner world and outer behavior. According to research published in the Journal of Counseling Psychology, people who embody self-congruence experience deeper relationships, stronger self-worth, and a clearer sense of direction. They are trusted, not because they say what others want to hear, but because what they say and what they do match. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Don't live as if you were going to live 1,000 years. Live as if you were dying right now." That line isn't about fear. It's about urgency. Urgency to stop acting, to stop waiting for permission, to stop wasting your soul playing a role that was never yours. Authenticity is the art of inner honesty. It is the courage to say, "This is who I am," even when that truth might disappoint others. But in doing so, you become whole. You become real. And nothing is more attractive than a man who knows himself and refuses to betray that knowledge. Think of a man offered a job with a six-figure salary, but the role demands that he lie to clients, betray his values, or stay in a city that dulls his spirit. Most would accept. The Sigma declines, not because he's reckless, but because he knows his peace is more valuable than any paycheck. He may not have the loudest success story, but he sleeps with both eyes closed and his conscience clear. Or think of the man who shows up to a family dinner, not to impress, but to connect. He doesn't boast about his career or embellish his accomplishments. He listens more than he speaks. He shares what matters to him, not what earns applause. And in doing so, he becomes magnetic, not to everyone, but to those who matter. Authenticity doesn't demand attention, it earns respect. Women don't fall for the loudest man in the room, they fall for the one whose silence holds truth. The Stoics remind us to live authentically is to live in harmony with nature, our own nature. As Epictetus wrote, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." That means we must first become still enough to hear who we are beneath the noise. Only then can we live without pretense. But here's the deeper beauty. Authenticity is contagious. When one man dares to be real, he gives others silent permission to do the same. He becomes a mirror that reflects what is possible when masks fall. And in a world that profits from your insecurity, the courage to be yourself becomes revolutionary. Authenticity is not perfection. It is presence. It's the quiet power of a man who knows his flaws and still stands tall. A man who doesn't need to be liked but chooses to be honest, who doesn't fear judgment because he no longer judges himself. This kind of man doesn't dominate rooms. He alters atmospheres. He doesn't sell himself. He offers truth. And to the right people, especially the right woman, truth is irresistibly attractive. So let others play their roles. Let them chase applause and rehearse their identities. The Sigma walks another way. He walks with truth as his compass and integrity as his armor. And wherever he goes, the world pauses. Not because he demands it, but because something real always commands more than something performed. He is the unmasked man. And that, in a world of illusion, makes him unforgettable. Number 4, the freedom beyond validation. There's something quietly unshakable about a man who isn't tethered to approval. He walks through life with an invisible gravity, the kind that doesn't pull toward others, but draws others toward him. This is the Sigma male's silent strength. He does not seek validation, and in that, he becomes irresistible. Non-neediness isn't aloofness or apathy. It's the freedom from desperation, the emotional self-sufficiency that allows a man to want without needing, to care without clinging. He is content, not because he has everything, but because he has enough within himself. This trait flies in the face of a culture addicted to instant replies, social media likes, and constant affirmation. But the Sigma male doesn't live on that frequency. His worth isn't negotiated through the responses of others. It is carved quietly in solitude, through a life aligned with his principles. Epictetus wrote, "When you fear losing something, you've already become its slave." A man who constantly checks his phone for a reply, who worries endlessly about what others think, who needs to be seen to feel secure. He has handed his peace over to the winds of opinion, but not the Sigma. Take a simple, modern scenario. Woman texts him. He doesn't respond right away, not out of strategy or manipulation, but because he's immersed in something meaningful, his craft, his workout, his peace. He responds when he's available, present, whole. And when he does, it's not laced with anxiety or need. It's calm, sincere, and rooted. Research on attraction, particularly from studies in interpersonal psychology, consistently reveals that emotional independence is one of the most desirable traits in long-term partners. It communicates stability, resilience, and self-respect. When someone doesn't need you to feel complete, you feel safe around them. You admire them. The Sigma male's detachment isn't coldness, it's clarity. He's not playing hard to get. He simply isn't trying to be gotten. He's already enough. Imagine a man in a relationship who doesn't freak out when his partner needs space, who doesn't project his insecurities when someone disagrees with him, who doesn't panic when he's not the center of attention. That kind of inner steadiness is rare, and in a stormy world, it becomes a harbor of peace. Women sense this. They sense when a man isn't trying to impress them because he doesn't have anything to prove. He shows up as he is, and that honesty is magnetic. Not every woman will be drawn to it, but the right ones, the strong ones, the ones who respect themselves will. There is a difference between indifference and inner freedom. The Sigma male knows the distinction. He engages from choice, not compulsion. His yes means something because he has the courage to say no. He sets boundaries not to keep people out, but to keep his integrity intact. And rejection, it doesn't rattle him, because his identity is not up for negotiation. He understands that not everyone will connect with his energy, and that's not just acceptable, it's welcomed. For what is built on forced connection will crumble under pressure. But what grows from authentic resonance stands the test of time. Non-neediness also creates space, emotional, spiritual, psychological space. It allows the other person to breathe, to be, to come closer, not because they're pressured, but because they are drawn. In that space, real love has room to flourish. The Sigma male teaches us that attraction isn't about how much you chase. It's about how grounded you remain when others don't chase you back. It's not about how loudly you declare your worth, but how quietly you live it. He doesn't react from fear, he responds from truth. And in this, he models one of the deepest Stoic ideals, not being ruled by externals. Seneca wrote, "A wise man is content with himself." That's not arrogance, it's wholeness. The man who doesn't beg to be seen is the man you can't help but notice. And it's in this space, this sacred non-neediness, that the Sigma male creates real intimacy. Because he's not trying to fill a hole. He's offering wholeness, not demanding energy but sharing presence. Think of the leader who doesn't need applause to move forward, the artist who creates without counting likes, the lover who doesn't cling but chooses every day with intention. These are the men who carry a presence that shifts rooms, not because they need to be seen, but because they see clearly. So let others play games, chase validation, and fear rejection. The Sigma walks differently. He walks with a quiet smile, not because he's winning, but because he's not playing a game that steals his peace. He is not cold. He is centered. And from that center radiates the kind of confidence that cannot be faked, only forged. He is not absent. He is anchored. And from that anchor flows the most powerful energy of all. Presence without pressure, love without need, being without begging. That's the power of not needing. That's the freedom most only dream of. But the Sigma, he lives it every single day. Number 5. High emotional intelligence. In a world that rewards noise, the Sigma man listens, not to prepare his next rebuttal or to position himself more favorably, but to understand, to connect without conquest, to see beneath the surface. That's the true heart of high emotional intelligence, not manipulation or control, but the ability to sit with another person's experience without trying to change it, to let someone feel safe, not because you fix their pain, but because you don't flinch from it. Emotional intelligence, or EQ, is more than a buzzword. It is the capacity to perceive, interpret, and manage both your own emotions and the emotions of others. And while society often places a premium on IQ, studies, like the one conducted at Harvard, reveal a far more enduring truth. Emotional intelligence is a stronger predictor of lasting, meaningful relationships than raw intellect. It's what sustains connection when logic fails, what bridges gaps when words fall short. The Sigma man doesn't speak to fill silence. He honors it. He's not afraid of emotional discomfort, his or anyone else's. Where others rush to smooth over sadness with platitudes or advice, he remains grounded, present. Epictetus reminds us, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. In that stillness, something profound happens. People begin to feel seen, not judged, heard, not handled. This emotional depth is rare because it requires a man to be rooted in himself, not swayed by every emotional wave that comes his way. It's not about being stoic in the cold sense. It's stoicism in its truest form, the calm amid the storm, the clarity in chaos. It's the man who doesn't get defensive when criticized, who can listen to pain without absorbing it, who can remain fully present when someone else breaks down, because he has made peace with his own inner wilderness. Imagine this. A woman is overwhelmed after a difficult day. She doesn't want answers. She doesn't need solutions. She just needs to be held in space, in silence, in understanding. The Sigma male offers that. He doesn't minimize her feelings. He doesn't jump to fix them. He lets them breathe. And in doing so, he becomes a refuge. This kind of emotional intelligence isn't learned from books. It's earned in solitude, in facing one's own shadows, in refusing to bypass grief or numb anger, but instead learning their language. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." The Sigma man lives this quietly. When hurt, he doesn't retaliate. He reflects. When faced with drama, he doesn't escalate. He evaluates. His calm is not passive. It is active strength, the discipline to feel without losing oneself. And women? They sense this. They may not always name it as emotional intelligence, but they feel it as safety, as depth, as the rare presence of a man who doesn't make their emotions about himself. The Sigma's high EQ also gives him an edge most overlook. It makes him a better leader, partner, friend, because he communicates not just with clarity, but with compassion. He can set boundaries without cruelty, disagree without disrespect, walk away without anger. His emotions are not enemies. They are instruments, finely tuned, never forced out. Of key, this creates bonds that are real, because you don't have to hide around a man like that. You don't have to armor up. You can be human, messy, unsure, vulnerable, and that's where true connection begins. Seneca once wrote, It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. The emotionally intelligent man is rich, not in the material sense, but in the wealth of understanding. He doesn't crave validation. He doesn't need others to mirror his worth. He brings enough of himself to the table that everyone else can just be. No performance, no pressure. In conversations, he listens for what's unsaid. In conflict, he stays curious. In love, he stays steady. His emotional fluency is not flashy, it's felt in the way he lowers his voice instead of raising it, in the way he looks someone in the eye when they speak, in the way his silence isn't absence, it's presence, deep and grounded. The Sigma male teaches us something our world forgets. Emotional depth is not weakness. It is the foundation of strength. It is what allows a man to bend without breaking, to care without control, to love without losing himself. So let others chase status, volume, or surface-level charm. The Sigma chooses something deeper. He chooses to feel, to understand, to connect. And in that quiet, emotional mastery, he doesn't just attract women. He invites them into a space where they can finally breathe. That is the quiet revolution of the emotionally intelligent man. That is the depth we long for, but only the brave can embody. Number 6, silent confidence. True confidence isn't loud. It doesn't enter a room looking for validation. It doesn't seek applause or demand attention. It simply arrives and is felt. Silent confidence is the presence that shifts energy without a word. It is the quiet gravity of a man who knows who he is, and more importantly, who doesn't need to prove it to anyone. This is the way of the Sigma male. Where others shout, he listens. Where others posture, he stands grounded. His power isn't measured by volume. It's measured by calm. Psychology calls this calm assurance, a form of deeply rooted confidence that inspires trust without needing to convince. It's what makes people turn to him in chaos, what makes women feel safe, what makes his stillness louder than any noise in the room. In one study on emotional contagion, researchers found that the emotional states of individuals can significantly influence the atmosphere of a group. A calm person, even without speaking, can spread a sense of stability and peace to those around them. In high-stress environments, this trait becomes not just attractive, it becomes magnetic. A room of scattered minds will naturally orbit around the one who stands still inside. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The Sigma male lives this truth. His calm is not an act. It is the natural result of inner work. He has met his fears and sat with his chaos. He has trained his instincts to respond, not react. This inner sovereignty is why he does not crumble in crisis or overcompensate in confidence. His stillness is not emptiness, it is discipline. Think of a tense boardroom, voices clash, anxieties spike, blame gets thrown like daggers, and yet one man remains composed. He doesn't interrupt. He doesn't defend. He listens. When he finally speaks, his words cut through the noise like a blade through fog. Everyone listens, not because he demanded attention, but because he earned it with silence. That man, more often than not, is chosen to lead, not because he sought power, but because his presence proved he could be trusted with it. This is the silent confidence of the Sigma male, and it cannot be faked, because it doesn't come from controlling the room. It comes from controlling the self, from knowing that storms will come, but your anchor is deep enough not to drift, from trusting your value even when no one claps. Women in particular sense this. It's not bravado that draws them, it's presence. The kind of presence that doesn't try to impress but simply impresses by being. The man who doesn't rush to respond, who isn't desperate to be liked, who doesn't need the last word because he's already grounded in the first. This is not indifference. This is not coldness. This is confidence forged in silence and tempered by self-respect. As Seneca said, the greatest wealth is a poverty of desires. The Sigma man is not driven by the craving to be seen. He is seen because he does not crave. And what does this silent confidence do? It creates space for clarity, for truth, for connection. In relationships, it offers women a safe harbor. A man who won't crumble under pressure, who won't spiral with every emotion. A man who can hold space for her storms without adding thunder of his own. In conflict, he listens longer than he speaks. In uncertainty, he does not rush decisions. In triumph, he does not boast. He moves with purpose, not performance. His body language is open but steady. His eyes do not dart around, they settle. When he walks into a room, he doesn't chase attention. He commands it with his restraint. This is what separates the Sigma from the Alpha. Where the Alpha demands dominance, the Sigma radiates assurance. Where the Alpha needs a pack, the Sigma needs purpose. He doesn't climb social hierarchies. He walks beside them, untouched. There's a story of a man who, during a major company crisis, sat quietly through an emergency meeting. As others panicked, he listened. When asked for his thoughts, he asked a question no one considered. That question turned the direction of the conversation and ultimately the company. He wasn't the highest-ranking officer, but he became the trusted voice. Not because he was loud, but because he was calm. That's the impact of silent confidence. It doesn't announce itself. It reveals itself in moments that matter. In love, in life, in leadership. People don't remember the loudest man in the room. They remember the one who made them feel safe, the one whose calm made them believe again, the one who, without saying much, said everything. So the Sigma man doesn't strive to be impressive. He simply is, because he has cultivated the one thing no one can imitate, an unshakable inner state. And that, more than charm or charisma, is what truly draws others in. That is the weight of stillness. That is silent confidence. Number 7, mysterious independence. In a world drowning in oversharing, constant broadcasting, and the relentless need to be seen, there exists a rare kind of man, the one who doesn't speak much, yet whose silence lingers in the minds of those around him. He doesn't attend every party, doesn't fill every room with his voice, and doesn't rush to update the world on his every move. And yet, when he appears, people notice. When he leaves, people wonder. This man is not hiding, he is choosing. This is mysterious independence, the gravitational pull of the Sigma male. His independence is not a shield against the world, but a deeply intentional choice. He walks alone, not because he's lonely, but because he values peace over performance. He doesn't crave constant company, because his own thoughts are compelling enough. And it's this very independence that awakens something primal in others, especially in women. Psychologists studying evolutionary behavior have long observed that women, when selecting a partner, are drawn to qualities that suggest resourcefulness, stability, and autonomy. A man who does not depend on the herd signals strength. One who is not always accessible suggests value. The less he needs to be chosen, the more he becomes a choice. This isn't about playing games or being emotionally unavailable. It's about presence without performance. The Sigma male is grounded in who he is. He does not need to broadcast it. This quiet self-sufficiency becomes a mirror for others, forcing them to reckon with their own insecurities, their own desire for validation. And that reflection is what often draws people in, not because he's trying to be mysterious, but because he already is. Stoic wisdom echoes this beautifully. Epictetus reminds us, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. The Sigma man lives this truth. His independence isn't rebellious. It's disciplined. It's not that he avoids connection, but that he refuses to be owned by it. He shows up not because he must, but because he chooses to. That choice alone carries weight. Think of the man who skips the weekend party everyone is talking about, not out of contempt, but because he's deep in his creative work. Maybe he's writing, building, training, channeling his time into something only he can see the full vision of. And when he does show up, heads turn, not because he's dressed to impress, but because his energy speaks louder than any outfit ever could. He doesn't try to be magnetic. He simply is. There is a psychological term for this magnetism: stimulus ambiguity. The less predictable or obvious something is, the more attention it draws. The Sigma's unpredictable social presence, his restraint in sharing personal details, his refusal to oversaturate, these all trigger curiosity. That curiosity evolves into fascination. It's not manipulation, it's nature. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved, and the raging of the sea falls still around it." The Sigma embodies this rock. He doesn't need constant reassurance to feel worthy. He doesn't chase opportunities or affection. He cultivates his own soil and trusts that the right seeds will grow in it. That unwavering self-trust, forged in silence, is deeply attractive. It tells others, you don't need to take care of me. I've already done the work. Women in particular respond to this differently than they do to the overt charm of an extrovert or the dominance of an alpha. The Sigma offers something rarer: mystery with depth, independence with presence. He won't flood your inbox with messages or validate your every word. But when he listens, he really listens. When he speaks, it matters. He is not emotionally scarce. He is emotionally intentional. There's an old story of a man who lived on the outskirts of a bustling city. People saw him only occasionally. He never mingled long, never overstayed. But when he did appear, he always carried something new, a perspective, an idea, a calmness. People didn't just admire him, they needed him. His absence made his presence more powerful. That man, by all modern labels, was a Sigma, and he wasn't trying to be. He simply valued truth over trend, solitude over social climbing, depth over display. In a society obsessed with visibility, mysterious independence becomes an act of quiet rebellion. It's not a refusal to connect, it's a refusal to perform. The Sigma man doesn't isolate, he just doesn't dilute himself to fit in. And this makes him irresistible, not because of what he offers on the surface, but because of what he withholds until it truly matters. So if you see a man who isn't everywhere, who doesn't overshare, who listens more than he speaks, pay attention. He might be walking his own path, and in doing so he's leaving a trail of intrigue and attraction in his wake. That's the allure of mysterious independence. That's the silent gravity of a man who belongs to no one, but whose presence, when it's felt, leaves no one untouched. Final reflection. And so we return to the quiet space we began with, the stillness beneath the noise, the presence beneath, the performance. What we've explored together is not a checklist. It's not a script to memorize or a character to play. These 7 traits of the Sigma male aren't techniques. They're truths, not decorations you wear, but foundations you build, because the Sigma man doesn't exist outside the hierarchy to rebel against it. He exists beyond it because he no longer needs it. He has transcended the game, not because he couldn't win, but because he realized there's a deeper game worth playing, the inner one, disciplined freedom, purpose over pleasing, authenticity, non-neediness, emotional intelligence, silent confidence, mysterious independence. Each one of these is a reflection of the same soul-level truth. You are most powerful when you are most aligned with your core. You are most attractive when you are at peace with your truth. And you are most unshakable when you no longer need to be seen to know your worth. As we walk through this world filled with noise and comparison, remember that your stillness is not weakness, it's your center. In a culture obsessed with visibility, it takes quiet courage to walk your own path without applause. It takes strength to remain grounded when others are reaching. And it takes wisdom to know that true influence doesn't echo from your volume. It radiates from your integrity. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." That, in the end, is the essence of the Sigma way. Not to pretend, not to posture, but to become, to embody, to live, to move with quiet clarity through the storm. You see, the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more men who listen. It needs more men who pause before they speak, who act from values and not from ego, who walk into a room not to take space, but to hold it. That is the quiet revolution of the Sigma male, and its impact is deeper than words could ever reach. Even science affirms what the soul already knows. Research from the University of Rochester found that what draws women isn't flash, wealth, or theatrics. It's authenticity, self-awareness, the ability to regulate emotion and live in accordance with one's values. That is the essence of deep, lasting attraction, and that's what makes the Sigma different. He is not trying to be seen. He is too busy seeing clearly. He is not desperate to be chosen. He is too focused on choosing his path wisely. And he is not asking for attention, because he has already given it to what matters most, his purpose, his peace, his presence. So wherever you are in your journey, whether you're just discovering this quiet power within you, or you've been walking this path alone for years, I want you to know something. You're not alone, and the road you're walking, though solitary at times, is not empty. It's sacred. Every time you choose honesty over approval, you deepen your power. Every time you sit in silence, instead of shouting for validation, you return home to yourself. And every time you walk away from what doesn't honor your truth, you become more of the man you were always meant to be. If this message stirred something in you, if it reflected a part of you that's often unspoken, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. You never know, your insight might be the signpost someone else needs. And if you found value here, feel free to like or subscribe, or simply pause for a breath and carry the message forward. This isn't just a video. It's a quiet call to remember who you are beneath the noise. A reminder that the most magnetic version of you has always been there. Calm, clear, deeply rooted. So don't chase the spotlight. Be the flame. Don't shout to be heard. Let your stillness speak. Because in the end, what draws others to you is not how much you do, but how deeply you are. And the man who dares to be fully himself needs no performance to be unforgettable.